But I
Right.
want to go back to when I asked you how that felt when somebody comes in and you were like, "Oh, I'm curious. There's a challenge." You used a few words. I'm interested. I kind of said this earlier about the gifted adult, right? The Liberating Everyday Genius, that book by Dr. Mary Elaine Jacobson. It's a fascinating book. You hit all of the things that she would say are the characteristics of what she would define as a gifted adult. And those characteristics as a child, she said, and she calls these natural factors, I believe. It's been a while since I've read it. But the two things as a child that define or that are precursors to somebody as an adult who she would call gifted, everyday genius. It's not like I'm not talking about Einstein's or Jimi Hendrix's or something. Um, but she says as a child, the two natural factors are one is a high degree of sensitivity, higher than 95%. So 5% of the people, or 7 or 10 or 3, whatever it is, have a higher degree, a natural higher degree of sensitivity than the other 90% of people. It's a marked difference. And you've run into those kids. I have run into those kids. I was one of those kids. You see things differently. All the other kids are playing and playing together and doing what they're told and just living life. And then there's some kids who are like, oh, they're at a different level. They are markedly different than the other kids. This just is real. This happened. Not better, not worse, sometimes worse, right? Like I was a highly sensitive kid, but I was a pain in the ass. It wasn't like I was better than anybody else. I was probably worse. That's one, the sensitivity. The other one is a drive to fix things, a sense of justice. Many
Mm.
kids, it's like, oh, they see shit and they don't think that's just the way it is. It's the way it is. Just accept it. But there are some kids who get really upset. When they see bullying, they get really upset. They want to stop that. Other kids
Mhm.
see bullying. 90% of the kids see bullying and they're just like, oh, I don't want to be bullied. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to disappear. Most kids do not do anything. The vast
Mm.
majority. And then there's one or two kids who are, 5 kids out of 100 who get really upset and want to do something. You know some of those kids. You lived with some of them. So that's as children. As adults, what happens is they develop the ICD, the intensity, the complexity, and the drive. So they have a curiosity. They want to do something. There's a drive, there's a complexity. They see, they get curious. That complexity is the curiosity.
Hmm.
There's a lot of people who have high intensity and high drive that I would not put in this category of gifted. They have a lot of intensity, they have a lot of drive, they can change things, they can, I think of some presidents and some political leaders, they have a ton of intensity and drive, but what they're missing is the complexity, the curiosity. And curiosity might be even more appropriate than complexity for that C. Huh. So when you were like, "Yeah, I have an intensity, I have a drive, I want to help these people. I want the challenge, I'm curious." You use that word. "I have a sensitivity to what's going on to them, I'm attuned." Some of these things I believe can be developed. Some of these things I think are intrinsic characteristics that could never be developed. They're just part of the nature of some of these people. And I refer to the gifted people quite often as disruptors. That's the word I would say, that they're disruptors. They disrupt the flow of society. They're destagnators. They want to change things. They want things to move forward. They want to evolve. And there's a lot of people who are just like they're happy. They don't even see this. They can't relate. They don't even know what you're talking. Why are you so upset? You're too intense.
Mhm.
You're too curious.
Mhm.
Why are you
Mhm.
getting so upset about this? Why don't you just accept the way it is? So
Yeah.
when you were talking about how you feel in doing what you do, I would say you're technically, with the technical gifted term, I think you are on multiple levels. Well,
Well,
that's
I find
part of what she says
yeah.
is that gifted it doesn't mean you're really the top in any one category. You have a general aggregate high level of curiosity across many realms. So somebody might be the greatest guitar player in the world, but they wouldn't fit in her gifted category because they're not interested at all in physicality or philosophy or, like, painting or, like her definition is somebody who has a level of curiosity and complexity across multiple measurements, so
And that I'll be honest, I think that, it's flattering what you said about me, and there's a bit of a cringe you wanna shrink
Sure,
back from that. I mean, to be honest. Um,
sure.
at the same time, there is a piece where I don't get, like you were talking about, somebody becomes the greatest guitarist in the world, but can't take that understanding learned from that pursuit and apply it in other directions. To me, I don't get that. Um,
I see that all the time. I see so many one-dimensional
well, so it's like with
experts.
yeah, it's like when, you know, I had a software company for a while. I was actually recruited to be a partner. And I'm like, "Why do you want me to be a partner? I'm a massage therapist, not a software engineer." And he says, "Because I've known you for over a decade now, and you are one of the greatest generalists I've ever met." I can't remember, he used some weird term like, "You have a vast approximation of knowledge." And I'm like, "What does that mean? Are you trying to say I'm smart? Because I'm not smart enough to understand what you're saying." He's like, "Yeah, you kind of know how everything works. You sit and you think things through, thought experiments, which is pretty true. I think that way. I'm constantly doing thought experiments and stuff, and you suss how things work out." And he wanted me, he says, because you can come up with the ideas, and I'm the best engineer in the world when it comes to um, you know, engineering
Technical
these. Yeah,
aspects.
yeah, engineer
Yeah.
the way he said it was, "I engineer dots, and I'm the best dots, and they're required for what we wanna do, but I need somebody who can help me take those dots and put them in a shape and a picture that people get. They can understand it's something that's gonna be useful for them."
Yeah.
And so
So
I
so I
entered
would
into
not
that,
I
and it was a weird thing, and I never imagined I would ever enjoy the engineering aspect of it. And as Patty says, I have a pretty high capacity to be able to figure out how to enjoy anything. Even being in pain and healing, like with my blown out disc and stuff like that. It's like, there was something, as scary as that was, part of me was tickled with like, this is what patients go through.
well,
And
again,
to be
use
able
different language than gifted. Like,
okay.
that's it's a stupid word because it brings that
I I would say one of the distinguishing pieces is the curiosity.
yes, and the complexity.
Right.
You could be curious and not figure things
But,
out.
yeah.
But this category, there's and who is this woman, Jacobson, who wrote the book? I don't know. Has her theory been, uh, vetted? Is it valid? I don't know. I don't really
But you
care.
found it very interesting. Yeah.
Well, what I care about is there are people who are different, and they are told they're different from day one. And they're told, "You're too much, you're too intense, you're too sensitive, you're too
Mhm.
worried about justice, you're too this, just ease up, just chill out, just
Keep your head down.
keep your head down, do what you're told, work
Yeah.
hard." These people are a threat. So maybe the disruptor adult, if
Mm.
that's less cringy. Oh, yeah, I could be a disruptor, but not a gifted one. And then I hear people go, "Oh, but I don't wanna be a disruptor, I want to get along." It's like,
Even the people like you're saying that they're told by those around them that they need to be less, they're not fitting in. Those people also have definitely the need to be accepted and have a tribe,
all of us do.
right? I mean, they aren't like, "Oh, I'm so different. I have to be myself no matter what." It's more like they exceed the threshold, right, of, like, making other people uncomfortable,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
so what happens is, and this is what she says in the book, and this is where I find the value in the book. She said these people then do something, one of two things. They either exaggerate, which I think is a small minority, and most diminish. Most go, "Oh, my gifts, my mission, my offerings to the world that the world does not want, I have to hide that. I have to become small. I have to become diminished." And this is where almost everybody I work with has a diminished. state. And to me, that third hierarchy that I talked about from, fight to connection to mission, they get stuck in that mission and then they get sick because there is a drive, there's an intensity, there's a complexity, a curiosity, a hunger that is not welcomed by the world. It's not welcomed by their families, it's not welcomed by their workplaces, it's not welcomed by their schools, by their friends. So they swallow it, they diminish it, but it is powerful. There's a
Yeah.
lot of power, and they get sick. They
And
get
that
IBS, they get celiac, and I'm not saying that's the
mhm.
only cause, but I think
But
it's
it's
a
a contributor. It's a
large
contributor.
it's more than a
It's part of the, psychosoma, right? It's part of when you have that mental stress, it shows up in the body and not as an imagined thing. And this is something I've actually had to tell an MD once. Like the way he talked about somebody has a psychosomatic problem, he was talking about them as if they were hypochondriacal, like
yeah,
they were chondriac.
imagining
And
something,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and I'm like, no, 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 those are two very different things. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, psychosomatic is like when you're stressed out and you break out in hives, those hives are not in your imagination. They're lesions in your flesh. Right. And he's like he just had lumped them together. And I mean, it really hit hard, you know? And I'm like, they're very different things from somebody who's, they see something on TV and they start experiencing symptoms. That's a very different thing from, I have something very stressful going on and it's affecting me in all these different ways. I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say for some people, cancer is a psychosomatic disease. Something's come along from a lifetime of being in stress or a period of being in massive amounts of stress that take them off the course of sleeping well, eating well, all the other things that are required to be able to maintain.
So to carry through with that, I think that people who are exaggerators, people who really act out like I'm one. I think you're an exaggerator more than a diminisher. You're not necessarily an antisocial exaggerator. I was more of, and still am probably more of an antisocial exaggerator. You are a pro-social exaggerator. What I see with people who act out, like myself, who express anger and get to share that with everybody around them, is I notice, and I ask people this. It's anecdotal, but I'm like, is this person who's angry and I bet you they don't have um, autoimmune disease, and I bet you they don't have IBS and celiac. And
If they're acting out.
yeah, if they're running
No,
around telling everybody to off and fighting, I'm noticing. I would be curious to do a study on that, but I notice just anecdotally, but I work with hundreds, if not thousands of people in my career. Most of the aggressive people, the ones who are fighting and yelling and
that express people that
express,
express the fight
they're not
energy. Yeah.
holding that.
Back. Yeah.
They're not disrespecting their own nervous system. I think
They're
telling
not overusing override. They're
no.
not overusing override. Yeah.
So I notice, in looking back, they don't seem to get cancer as much or autoimmune diseases or celiac or IBS. It's a lot of the people who are diminishing, mostly a lot of women who are holding all of this power in. They hold that in and then they end up getting sick. Anecdotally, it's pretty powerful. There's quite a bit of expression.
I would say that really tracks with what I've witnessed too. People living their truth, man, much less likely to have chronic life-threatening situations or chronic issues that are greatly life diminishing.
But what they do have, or what they don't have, is connection. So a lot of these exaggerators, like artists and
Mm,
Hunter S. Thompson and actors and people who are very exaggerating, they're expressing everything, and they're angry and they're not sick personally, but they don't have connection because their expression, their unbridled respect of their own nervous system state is harmful to connection. It's not
mhm.
respecting the people around them's nervous system state. It's great to be angry. I think it's really great. I tell people, hey, you can punch somebody out if you want. You could punch out your boss. That, I think, is highly respectful to your nervous system state. If your boss says something you don't like and you want to punch him, I think the greatest respect you could do for your nervous system for that particular state is punch him. It's not respectful though to your need for connection,
Mhm.
and you'll end up in jail probably. So certainly at worst fired unless you're somebody like one of my friends who punches somebody out and they get promoted. The other person gets,
Yeah, Chris.
but
Yeah.
okay,
Oh, I love that
there's
guy.
anomalies.
And yeah, yeah, yeah. And I will say I'm not pro violence, but I think he was fully justified. You know. Anyway,
So what happens is the exaggerators, I think, don't get sick internally as much, but I think they end up suiciding a lot because they have a very underdeveloped state of
network.
connection.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That there isn't a web to hold them when they are having really bad time, going through bad times.